What's a jaw-dropping piece of information your parent dropped out of nowhere? My grandparents, on my mother's side, lived 4 hours away from us and owned a cow farm. From the time I was 8 until I was 12, it was normal for my mother to drive my sister and me up to the farm and leave us there for 2 to 5 weeks to work the farm with my grandparents. My grandpa died when I was 13, and the farm ended up being sold, flash to when I was 24. My mother was reminiscing about her childhood and casually mentioned that my grandpa was a predator and abused her repeatedly from the time she was 9 until she was 16, which is why she wouldn't stay at the farm with us. She drove her 2 daughters 4 hours away from home and left us with a known predator, unsupervised for weeks at a time. As far as I can remember, nothing ever happened to me, and my sister swears nothing happened to her. But it's still messed up that she opened us up to the possibility.
One day my parents told me they were going to Grandma's funeral. One small detail was that they had told us kids that she had died 30 years ago. She had been institutionalized her whole life, and so they told everyone that she died.
I didn't know I had a brother until I was 13, a half-brother from my father's first marriage, with absolutely no mention of him prior to that. As an only child, it was quite exciting, especially as my dad said he'd take me to Disneyland with my brother. It didn't happen. My dad died when I was 14. It wasn't until last year, when I was 41, that my brother made contact, and it turned out he didn't even know about me. I still haven't met him, nor been to Disneyland. My mother left me a letter in her dresser to be found when she passed away. Cleaning out her room after she passed, I found it. She told me all kinds of things about her childhood that she had never shared. These were not bad things. She also told me she had been engaged before she met my dad. It kind of messed me up. Why wouldn't she have shared this with me before? Don't do this to your children. I was in my mid-50s when she passed. So, we always knew my mother was engaged when she was young. The story she told us was that her fiancé died shortly before the wedding. Even my father believed that to be the case. She died in April 2013, and we brought her home to her community up north. There was this man who walked up to the casket and broke down. I had never met the man before in my life. My father didn't even notice. I asked my cousin, "Who is that man?" She replied, "That's the man your mom was engaged to." I was like, "I thought he was dead?" To this day, I don't know why she lied about it. It was out of character for her. Ooh, I love this. When I was younger, my parents divorced. I was their only child. My dad remarried and gained 4 older stepbrothers. When I was younger, my dad used to lie to me to keep me happy, so for countless Christmases, I asked for a sister. One year, my dad said, "You have a sister," and showed me a picture of her. I was so happy about finally getting what I wanted. However, years passed, no sister, and I thought he said that to keep me happy, as I'd been asking for the same thing for years on end, until I was 13. On that Christmas, he said someone wanted to meet me. It was my sister, who was 14 years older than me. My dad died last year. Ever since, my mom has been telling me things about their relationship. She also has dementia, so I'm not sure how much to believe. For example, she mixes up my daughter's name with mine, and the other day, she thought I was 18. I'm 42. Anyways, she told me that my dad had multiple affairs, that he was a heavy drinker, and that he once pulled a gun on her during an argument. My dad was the most stoic, gentle man I'd ever met. I rarely saw him drink, and he never stopped loving my mom, so I don't know about the affairs. She also told me that she had multiple affairs. Also, keep in mind that they were divorced, and she was remarried for 30 years before he passed away. She also told me that she went to say goodbye to her father before she left to move to America when she was in her 20s. I grew up thinking my grandfather went missing when my mom was 8. He had abused all of the kids, so it was a good thing that he never came back. But now the story has changed. In our childhood home, my parents' bedroom led directly out to the pool, like 3 feet away. We had an old dog who was partially blind and didn't get around that well. It was my mom's dog, and she loved it like one of her children. One night during a storm, my dad let the dog out to go pee, and she fell into the pool and drowned. Long story short, my dad told my mom that he took the dog to get cremated, but actually threw her in the dumpster behind his office, brought back a bag of sand, and told my mom it was the dog's cremains. As if that wasn't horrific enough, my grandma, who did office work for my dad, saw him put the dog in the dumpster, crawled in there herself to retrieve the dead dog, and took her to the vet to actually be cremated. My mom passed away in 2022, and she never found out what really happened. My grandma is still alive at 92 years old, and she told me the story last year. After a lifetime of incidents like that, my father wonders why our entire family has been no contact with him for decades now. I didn't find out I had another sister until I was about 16. My brother and I share the pre-birth transportation, and my baby sister and I share a dad. So for 16 years, it was me, my brother, then my sister. Well, turns out that I am actually the oldest of 4 total half-siblings. If this doesn't tell you why I call her my pre-birth transportation instead of my mother, I don't know what would. Basically, my father refused to sign my birth certificate until he got the DNA test to prove I was his. I was, and when she realized she couldn't use me to get my dad to give her money-free housing, she dumped me with him. Same went with my brother, except he came out literally looking like a baby version of his dad, so no DNA test was needed. Between the two of us, there was a sister. She had gone to a different state to have her, and she had slept with so many men she had no clue who to even begin DNA tests with. So she literally had the baby and abandoned her there and never looked back. And yes, those are almost exactly her words. The direct quote was, "I don't know who the father is that was on the hospital to figure out what to do with her, and I don't feel bad about it." I have put out feelers for her, but I'm running on extremely limited info, and TBH, I'm not sure she actually exists because she is such a fan of drama, and to this day still questions why neither my brother nor I talk to her anymore. My dad was an insane child. One time we were out for dinner with 2 of our other relatives, and he just starts talking about the craziest story I've ever heard. So basically, he was around 17 at the time, and his brother is the same age as him. He has 2 brothers, but the second one wasn't born yet. They once went out with their friends, and out of nowhere, they decide to leave the country. We live in Moldova. They get in the car and drive to Ukraine, Russia, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, without telling their parents or anyone. They were gone for 6 months, and everyone was looking for them. Thankfully, my grandma and grandpa were on vacation in Ukraine, and coincidentally, they were at the same beach. My dad was having the time of his life swimming in the sea and then slowly gets out of the water to see his father standing on the shore. And guess what? No hugs, no nothing. His father walks over to him and slaps his face hard. There's a million other stories like these, but I literally cannot stop thinking about this one. It's crazy. My mom had a baby with a boyfriend before being married to my dad. The baby died, unfortunately, shortly after birth. I was told this in my teenage years. Apparently, according to my aunt, my parents were separated for a while when I was little. My mom was with someone else, got pregnant, and aborted. My parents did get back together and were as unhappy as ever until my dad died. More than 15 years after my dad had passed, my mom showed me a letter that vaguely points to the fact that my dad might have had another child with someone else. We don't know who sent the letter. Nobody in my family knows anything about it. My dad was extremely introverted, so he would not have told anyone. Can't ask him, unfortunately. Found out a couple of bombshells years ago. My dad drunkenly admitted during a Thanksgiving that his heart attack wasn't a heart attack, but a cocaine overdose. Was told my dad cheated on my mom. My mom cheated with her boss as revenge. My dad went to beat up the boss, but my mom ended up just quitting the job. This somehow strengthened their relationship. The biggest jaw drop was being told when my mom fell pregnant with me and my twin sister. Apparently, we were originally quintuplets. She contemplated abortion. They already had 3 kids, and 5 newborns was a bit much to add to that. Dad told her it was 100% her choice, and he would support her whatever she chose. She miscarried 3, leaving me and my sister. Having twins was more acceptable to her, so she decided to keep us. That was tough to handle. Knowing you're here by pure luck and that luck played a role in the choice to keep you as well. I have a few. My father is diagnosed with ASPD and bipolar disorder. He tried to kill my mom one night and several times after, and that's when they separated. I didn't know about the diagnoses until my mom brought it up in court. My mom didn't tell me until I was 21 and suspected to have leukemia that I have a blood disorder. It's rare and genetic, and apparently my whole family had to get tested after they found out. I cannot have children with anyone who carries a hemoglobin defect, or our children will not survive. She didn't think it was important enough to tell me. My grandfather isn't my biological grandfather. My mom's bio-dad went on a fishing trip and never came back. He was suspected to have drowned, and my grandmother married his best friend 6 months later. This was when my mom was 2 years old. Oh shit! When I was 15, my mom and I were eating at a deli and making casual conversation. A song by Prince came on. I loved Prince growing up. He was a big part of the soundtrack to my childhood. So my mom talks about how Prince brings back memories and how she had a coworker at a place she worked when I was a baby who would sing his songs to her. Then she said that she slept with him, but my dad, her husband, told her he'd leave and take me if she ever cheated again. I was sitting there holding my sandwich, just staring. Anyway, she ended up cheating on him a bunch during their last year of marriage and dragging me into it again until she finally left my dad. He wasn't even mad. He told me not to hold a grudge and that he was happier without her. He's living his best single life going camping and building models, and she's now married to a loser. Actually, come to think of it, one time, this was a few years ago, so I was in my mid-30s. I was in a major conference call at work, and I get a call from my mom. I answer and say I'll call her back, but she's sobbing. My boss gives me a look to tell me she'll hold it down, and I should call her back. So I do. Turns out she has an STD. She was not happy when I proceeded to laugh hysterically at her for not wearing a condom. She was like, "Why would I wear a condom? I've been through menopause." So yeah, I don't talk to my mom anymore. And parents who have had affairs, don't tell your fucking children. My mom once casually mentioned that her grandmother had shot herself because her husband's thriving business went under during a recession. She said it was unclear if the decision was made based on loss of social status or fear of poverty. Previous to that, the family was quite wealthy. The grandmother left 3 kids aged from about 13 to 18. A few years later, my mother's grandfather drank more than a bottle of whiskey in one sitting and died as well. Apparently, my mother had never been told what happened to her grandparents until she was an adult. She was chatting with her aunt, who suddenly told her the story in the same offhand way that she later used with me. When she had asked as a child, the topic was immediately shut down, and she was punished for asking about it. When I was about 12, my parents told me that I had an older half-brother, Z, on my dad's side that I knew nothing about. The only reason they mentioned it was because my dad was still paying child support, and the topic came up when my dad was discussing finances with my mom. Then, years later, I'm in my mid-20s, and my dad randomly texts me and my mom a picture of some guy with zero context. I ask who it is, and he tells me it's my brother. Z? I ask him. No, your other brother, T. Say what now? The heck are you talking about? When did that happen? He was before Z. You knew about him. I knew about Z. I had no idea about this. Text mom to ask WTF dad is on about. Mom is just as confused and shocked as I am, and is having basically the same conversation with him on her end. Really? Huh, I could have sworn you knew about him. I most certainly did not. Well, now you know. There are definitely more things that I could go on about from over the years, but this is one of the most memorable. WTF dad. Not me, but a family who lived next door but one. They were a married couple with 5 kids, aged 14, 12, 8, 6, and 3 at the time, in 2000. The 14-year-old was my age, and we were good friends. We used to hang out loads. The 12-year-old was good friends with my brother, and even used to go away with us when we visited family a few towns over. The 12-year-old was well known to embellish the truth, with kid stuff like, I can do a triple backflip, but I don't feel like it. Or, I have a girlfriend, but she doesn't live near us. One day, he and I were hanging out at my auntie's, and he came out and said, "My dad isn't my real dad." I didn't believe him. He told me that he and his older brother shared a different dad who lived 350 miles away, and he only just found out. I still didn't believe him. One, because he was known to lie, and two, because all the kids shared bright blonde curly hair. They all looked the same. He showed me a Christmas card his real grandparents sent him, and I finally believed him. I asked my mom about it, and she confirmed and had known for years, as she was best friends with the mom. The older brother knew as well, which means he kept that a secret for years. I don't know why. Apparently, the split was a normal split with a bit of a falling out. Here's the plot twist. Their real dad is now someone I call Dad, and I love him as a dad and call him Dad. This guy soon came to visit, and my divorced mom met him and instantly fell in love. She then moved me and my younger brother and sister up to the north of England, 350 miles away, and got married. He is awesome, but too young when he had kids. My brother and sister called him Dad, so I did too, because it was easier. We don't talk to any of the family anymore. The mom cheated on her husband, got divorced, then died of diabetes. The 12-year-old turned out to be a horrible person who essayed my little sister. This was 24 years ago now. It's crazy how much my life changed because of a family who lived 2 doors away.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to see more.